You all. So beautiful, so perfect, so wonderful. Just taking you all in. Because when I sit down there, you're not all here, but when I get up here, you're all here. It's lovely. It's lovely. It is lovely. And hello to our Zoomers. Good to see you as well. I love that this is an opportunity for wherever we are, we can come together in person, online. Such a beauty to be in this. So today, yes, the Centers for Spiritual Living has a global theme, and they have called today, "The World is an Oyster." And I love to be open and transparent, so as I was going through these notes, I deleted them. Because the world is an oyster. I was thinking, I was talking about the irritant, right? That what an oyster is, to make a pearl, it has this grain of sand in it, and it's an irritant. And so I was very irritated by the notes, and I thought, what's in this for me? What am I learning here? What process am I thinking about? And oh, did I ever do some good learning yesterday. I did some good processing, some good growth, much like an oyster does. It takes that irritant, its grain of sand, so this is what really happened. I went to research how a pearl is made. And that is what irritated me. Because a pearl, in its natural expression of an oyster, is, yes, it can be a grain of sand, but the rarity of a pearl showing up in nature is 1 in 10,000. 1 in 10,000 oysters have an opportunity to have a pearl. And so, being opposed to things being farmed and harvested, all of my stuff came up of these poor oysters being farmed and harvested and forced to create not only one pearl, but sometimes 20 in one oyster. That's what farming does. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna release, what does nature, let's go back to the nature of this experience. And nature can teach us so much about ourselves. Nature can teach us so much. So what is the oyster teaching us? So the oyster, in its beautiful, heartwarming fairy tale, is a grain of sand that becomes lodged inside the oyster. And the oyster knows exactly what to do. In fact, because an oyster's brain is so small and its nervous system is so tiny, it doesn't feel much pain. Oh, hallelujah. Oh, thank goodness the oyster doesn't feel pain. And so this little grain of sand, the oyster encapsulates it with its own essence, its own material, and allows that grain of sand to be coated in its own essence, so it's no longer an irritant. Now, if we take a look at life, it's called "The World is an Oyster," but I was just thinking about how really the world is an aquarium, and I am the oyster. I am the oyster. And so there's this opportunity to be in this world and to be irritated by a lot of things. We leave our house, the chances of us being irritated are pretty high. Sometimes staying in our house, the chances of us being irritated are pretty high. So that basic concept of using what is in us to allow the irritation that is around us to become something beautiful. You ever hear that old saying, one man's trash is another man's treasure? A pearl is more likely to be unconsumed food or waste than it is a grain of sand. I learned a lot about oysters yesterday. And so as the oyster takes that awful irritant, it transforms it into something beautiful that we human beings think, let's string a whole bunch of them and decorate ourselves with. So the oyster doesn't fear the sand. It doesn't say, you know what, I'm going to stay away from the beach today. It says, look at that sun, right? The sun is shining today. Oh, I have a grain of sand. No big worries. Nothing going on here that I can't handle. And as a human being, as an oyster ourselves, we have that power within us because that intelligent mind that is showing up as irritants is for us to make something beautiful from. So don't fear the grain of sand. Sand happens. The irritants and discomforts are all around us. So are we avoiding discomfort? Are we resisting? Are we locking ourselves up and keeping our treasure in boxes or under mattresses? There is a divine order that is happening here all around us. We can't change sand. We can't change sand from happening. But we can use what is around us and what is within us to better our lives, to make our lives more beautiful, more powerful, more precious. Linda Martello Whitsitt wrote in Divine Audacity, the order we sense and experience in the natural world is a material representation of spiritual order. The intelligent, underlying and overarching, though invisible, order out of which all becomes possible. So we can't fear the sand. We can't stop going to the beach. Wonderful things happen at the beach. And then I was thinking, well, so we're not afraid of the sand. We don't have to be afraid of the sand. But ever get a pebble in your shoe while you're walking to the beach? Oh, stupid pebble. So don't be mad at the sand. Don't be mad at the pebble. Sand happens. The sand is not our enemy. And the oyster just knows what to do. It doesn't steer clear of the sand. It doesn't make the sand its enemy. It makes the sand something beautiful out of its own essence. And we have that power within us. Ernest Holmes wrote in 365 Science and Mind, we do not change all of the patterns of our thoughts in a moment. Rather, it takes place little by little until gradually the old thought patterns become transformed into new ones by some inner alchemy of the mind. Yes, I have a pebble in my shoe. Yes, there's a grain of sand irritating me right now. This is not my enemy. There is nothing that is my enemy. I read the Tao Te Ching every single morning, and yesterday's reading was perfect for me to understand the irritant of learning about oysters. And the copy I'm reading right now is The Tao of Pastoring by William C. Martin. And so he's taken the Tao Te Ching and wrote it for me. The Art of Pastoring. And so lesson number 69. If someone opposes your plans, do not think that you have an enemy. You will have an enemy only if you make him so in your heart. Wait and see. Perhaps your opponent is an angel sent from God to show you more subtle and deeper aspects of the word. Let your so-called opponent show her true intention. If she is truly in opposition to you, your waiting and patience and lack of attack will give you the victory that redeems you both. So bringing to that place, that irritant in our life, it's probably not a grain of sand. It's probably the conversation you've had with someone like your neighbor or someone you're struggling with. There is no one outside of you that is your enemy. There is nothing outside of you. Nature is beautifully expressing itself in harmony and balance and peace and power. Like I like to say, glory and grace. life is unfolding for each of us. It is the universe's intelligence that is bringing forth all the things that are irritating us. I like to tell this story about my wife and I. We've been married now for 10 years, together for 15. We found the Center for Conscious Living, which is Center for Spiritual Living in Winnipeg, a month after we started dating, and thank God. Because the moment we found each other, we said, "Oh, you're a pearl. Look at you, you're so bright and shiny." And then we realized, we looked behind one another and said, "Whoa, look at all that baggage." Look at all that stuff. And then we looked behind ourselves and said, "Oh my goodness, look at all the baggage I'm bringing into this relationship." I say, she's lucky number 13. I had 12 things worth of baggage and storage I was carrying around with me. I had cargo vans following me around. And so, what we realized was that we could see the treasure in one another. There was something we knew. And so we made a rule right off the hop. God first, you second. And the beauty of this teaching is that the God self is putting ourselves first, putting our spirit self, our higher expression that wants to be revealed, that wants to unpack all of that stuff. And so our first 5 years of relationship together, we were like those two very jagged rocks and stones that are put in a tumbler. And why do you put them in a tumbler? You want to smooth out the edges. You want to polish them up. But you don't just put one stone in there. You put multiple stones in that tumbler and you let it spin. Because the more you're in there together, the more polished you become. And so we have broken off all of our jagged edges. We have unpacked all of that stuff. Now I just have one of those little fanny packs, you know? I just have one of those left. I'm still working, I'm still going. You know why I know I'm still got stuff to learn? I'm still doing this. Breathing here in this experience. And so I'm not putting that fanny pack away. I know there's stuff. But the beauty of that tumbler is that when we come together, jagged edges and all, we are polishing up ourselves and each other. Right? We are the beauty and the grace of finding that spirit, that divinity within one another. Buckminster Fuller said, "You never change things by fighting the existing reality. To change something, build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete." So I'm still in the tumbler. Tammy and I, we're still in the tumbler, but now we've got cushy pillows with us and tools to use and the willingness to sit down and have a conversation. The willingness to sit down with what is irritating us, even if it's not with the person who's irritating us. I discovered all of my residue and hostility towards oyster farming all by myself. Tammy might have said a couple times from the other room, "Everything okay in there?" Yeah, just processing. Processing what humankind does so that we can have pearls. But it really is what we do for ourselves. It's that oyster, it's that essence that is within us, that is powerful, that is the presence of spirit. You have that power within you. You have the essence of an intelligent mind that can handle all things, all irritants, all tumbling. You have that power. So don't fear the grain of sand. Don't be mad at the sand. The sand is not an enemy. And then find the treasure. 1 in 10,000. 1 in 10,000 oysters produces a pearl naturally. Think of how many conversations we've had in a lifetime. Have you had one conversation that was so special that you remember it today? That mentor, that guide, that teacher, that stranger that bumped into your cart and then gave themselves to you in such a way that brightened an experience. These are powerful presences that are in every moment. We get to unpack, we get to find the treasure, we get to go treasure hunting. And when we are aware of this powerful presence, when we are aware of this expression and experience, that essence that we are, oh my goodness, we get to go out and be the treasure. We get to go out awake and aware and observe the world around us and say, oh, that person is wrapped in some irritation. What can I do? What essence of the natural divinity of my own being can wrap them, can hold them, can help them? So we don't want to ignore our discomfort. We would be missing out on massive amounts of treasure. We don't want to ignore those things. We don't want to avoid the opportunity to wake up to our own experience and our own expression, the fullness of who we are. Right? Like the Tao was saying, what if they're angels? What if they're just angels showing up to smooth out that one spot? That one spot, that one more spot. What if this moment changes everything? So in Divine Audacity, which I just finished reading for the second time, so I'm all about divine audacity because I believe we all should be divinely audacious, and bold in who we are. Because I know the truth of you. I know who you are. You are the light, you're the spark, you are an infinite mind, you are holy and sacred, and oh my goodness, you're magnificent. And so it's easy for me to see. She said, evolution is the power of order demonstrated as development, progress, or growth. In spiritual circles, evolution is often referred to as spiritual unfolding or transformation. Evolution moves in the direction of expansion from simple to complex. Our ability to evolve is inherent, just as evolution is inherent in the universe. The idea of evolution or harmonious expansion is a divine idea flowing from the source of one mind. Our urge to evolve comes from our catching that divine idea and cooperating with it. Charles Fillmore taught, involution always precedes evolution. That which is involved in mind evolves through matter. We are an evolving species. It took 2.3 billion years for me to stand here in this moment. And there's a whole bunch of society who believes human beings are done evolving. I don't think so. I think we're just getting started. We have the power, we have this beautiful teaching to expand, to grow, and to evolve, and to awaken to that which is already in us, our inherent nature. We know exactly what to do. We have a blueprint that is divine, and a mind that is all mind. That's the power that we are using. And so we get to use this in our lives. We get to make this practical by remembering who we are, by remembering that the treasure that we are today took a very long time to get to, even in this life. That tumbler is powerful and precious, and it takes courage to show up in community and to be your true self. To be brave enough to have difficult conversations and brave enough to sit and listen to someone whose opinion might not be the same as yours. That's courage and compassion. And we have all that power within us. So I just invite each of us to be comfortable being uncomfortable. Being okay with not being okay. The oyster is not spiritually bypassing the grain of sand. It's absorbing it and making it something great. We have that power in us. And so I'm going to leave you with a quote by one of my favorite captains, Captain Christopher Pike, the Enterprise. We have the same life goal. He said, maybe that's why I'm here, to remind you of the power of possibility. Maybe that's the good in seeing my future. That I might remind you that right up until the very end, life is to be born gloriously. So stay curious, stay uncomfortable.